Well, the forest has been neglected, especially over the last 100 years. Everything's overgrown. When the forest is overgrown, it's going to take longer, it's going to cost more money, and we don't have the time.
We can now do the work of a fire mechanically.
It is state of the art, and it's the future. 1 million acres a year in one state's not enough. We need to be doing millions.
Look at the fires and how catastrophic they are. Look at California.
Multiple wildfires continue to burn out of control.
Several wildfires burning in LA County. Homes, schools, and entire communities have been destroyed.
Billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. When a tree falls down, after 18 months it becomes very dry. It's like, it's like lighting a match. And you got to be able to clean, they call it maintain your forest.
I think it's the landing on the moon of the outdoors. The impact that what he's doing on the environment, not only from the tree perspective, but the watershed, and there's so many second and third order effects of what he's doing is just going to impact this country for decades.
It's a new tool in our toolbox for modification of fuels and fire growth and fire spread and wildlife, water quality. I think it's a good tool for a lot of different things.
In our treatment areas, we design it ahead of time through software. We can go in and design it exactly the way Mother Nature wanted it to do. You get it all knocked over, all in one area, and then we pile it together. We have a byproduct, we have biomass sitting on the ground. What we've done is we've built a gasification reactor unit. And by the time you're done, you have biochar. The byproduct actually goes back into those treatment areas.
It's taking care of the forest, and it's putting veterans to work in their own business.
It creates 30% more water. It increases wildlife. When you've cleared those conifers out of there, wildlife now have a place in the highlands.
It's exciting what 106 is doing, giving managers, giving landowners another option, another tool that really can do this a lot faster, a lot more at scale. That's what we need.
This really isn't rocket science. This is just good science.
I'm trying to do everything I can for the forest. Like most people do nowadays, you Google something and you read and read and read and read, and I Googled something that came out of 1950s Popular Mechanics magazine that showed these crazy contractors. They did a buoy and they just put it between two dozers on a cable and were able to do 200 acres a day, which was unheard of, obviously. And so that's kind of where I learned. And from there, I designed software packages to make this precise, built a new style roller. And then the state was kind enough to do trial use for me to see how it worked.
To see what Mike's done on his private property and the effects, clearly this can meet objectives.
A healthy ecosystem needs fire. And if you can mimic a prescribed burn, that's great too. And that's what this 106 reforestation does.
It starts with a very careful analysis of where you want to do treatment areas. So once we do that, we load it into our software system called Dozer Sync. It cuts a polygon.
It raises the chain, it raises the cable off the ground, and it gives the chain enough leverage to topple those big trees and to bring their roots right up.
Because we pull the root balls out, the water gets down into the ground. Things are going to get thicker, they're going to grow better.
I came to visit the site and I was pretty impressed with the job that Mike is doing and the results that he's got going. The aspen regeneration in particular is pretty impressive here.
There has to be a process that allows us to protect against wildfire. Usually when you hear people talk about creating a defensible space, you just gotta clear cut everything, right? But the unique thing about this process is that it still looks beautiful when you're done.
When we started 106 Reforestation, we had a solution for fire mitigation. We didn't have a solution for what was left over. And that was the challenge for me. So over the last year and a half, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to solve them. We've designed a mobile gasification reactor unit. You don't use oxygen, so it burns all internally. So there's no flame, no fire, no smoke, and the CO2 has been sequestered. And then the byproduct actually goes back into those treatment areas as biochar. We're providing a cradle-to-grave solution.
I'm excited about it. I'm really thankful that the legislature actually stepped up and funded this.
We need the water, we want the wildlife, and breaking aspen.
We're having an obvious cycle of intense hot fires. What they're doing up there to treat the trees is exactly what we ought to be doing more of.
Understanding that diversity of species, introduction of aspen to make sure there's foliage out there for the wildlife is incredibly important.
The outcome of it is actually pretty dramatic and obviously very positive. And I think that surprises people. So they're like, well, you know, could it really be that good?
What our forests here today are nothing similar to where they were 100 years ago.
The United States Forest Service scrapped a logging project in the Ashley National Forest. Environmentalists say they're pleased that the project has been canceled.
A lot of dead overgrowth has accumulated in the forests now, and
now
so
this graph shows the increase in the area burnt by fires in the U.S.
Over 350 acres have been set fire.
Since we have suppressed fire for so many years, we have gone from a situation where we used to have maybe 10 to 20 trees per acre to upwards 200 trees per acre. It's not uncommon.
The challenge that we have with all these conifers is they are firewood, and they also don't allow the water to go into the ground. They hold the snow up in our high altitude and it evaporates.
We've lost 2.5 million acres of aspen land to conifer encroachment. And subsequently, we've lost another 20 to 30% of our snowpack in those areas because aspens allow far more snow to hit the ground. The thinning process that needs to be done on watersheds is much more desirable than the nuclear option of having a fire come through here and burn it all to the ground.
If you do a burn, you've got a black scarred hillside for a minimum of 10 years, 15 years. And with 106, you have aspens growing the next year.
In our treatment areas, we disturb the soil, which is everybody you talk to, don't disturb anything, don't. But because we pull the root balls out, the water gets down into the ground. It doesn't run off. There's almost zero erosion. And there are studies showing that removing trees at high elevation produces more water downstream.
Fairly recent research showed that the difference between aspens and conifers, the amount of water in the soil and the amount of water in the snowpack, in this particular case, was about 10 inches of water. And when you're only getting 22 inches of water a year, 10 inches is a huge amount of water. The best one was at Fools Creek on the Fraser National Forest. They clear-cut one watershed, kept one watershed intact, and the clear-cut watershed produced 40% more water than the other one for the next 20 years.
Even if what the study has proven is off by 50%, I can't even imagine the amount of water that we could generate by proper forest management. Not reckless, proper forest management.
Science determines how to do it, but then the actual execution of it was so easy.
No, I think a whole new window has opened, and we're able now to work watershed health from the base of the mountain clear to the top. And I think this 106 reforestation will become a very integral part, and it needs to have funding.
I've proven it to myself, and I know for a fact that it produces more water. We're pumping 15 gallons, I can pump 100 gallons per minute, 24 hours a day now, based on these treatment areas.
We will save the water by being smart about having an impact as humans and then mitigating the impact that humans are having.
In the last year or two, we started noticing the high elevation areas were now suffering, where the deer and the elk spend their summer times, up in the tops. There's been an overgrowth with the fir and the pine, and the aspen have been suffering. There was not a lot of habitat, not a lot of feed in the winter range. Usually they should be going into the fall with their highest fat of the year. And they've been finding that that's not the case.
You send a deer into the winter range with 5 or 6% body fat, what's going to happen to that deer? It's going to starve.
We want more mule deer in the state of Utah, right? Our management, our population is not where we want it to be. We want to grow mule deer, and from the last decade or so of research, including this 9 mile, the suggestion is one of our better ways to do that is going to be to improve the quality and availability of forage at higher elevations where they're summering.
We have these trees that they're a threat right now. Clearing them out so that we can protect the forests and do all the other environmental things around wildlife habitat and water and all of that.
My #1 fight for 10 or 15 years was trying to figure out how I got water up on top at 10,000 feet so the wildlife would flourish. I was never going to get wildlife on my property unless I had water. They have to have cover, they have to have feed, they have to have water. So I'm doing my treatment areas, and obviously Division of Wildlife Resources notice what I'm doing. They notice that the wildlife are coming to my treatment areas.
We started to look around and see, okay, well, where are places that are doing active management to try and improve the quality of summer range? And the 106 restoration effort on the 9 mile Range Creek unit is one example.
The impact all the way down from your large wildlife that everybody talks about all the way down to the fish in the lakes. It seemed like the right thing to pay attention to.
That increases wildlife, their ability to have a place to live. When you've cleared those conifers out of there, wildlife now have a place in the highlands to be able to grow and expand.
Immediately when we do our treatment area, wildlife comes to our areas. I mean, there's been times we've been in treatment areas where I turn around and I look and there's a deer or an elk right there eating off of the trees that we've knocked over.
It makes areas that weren't very good for forage, low forage availability. Aspen trees are tall, the leaves are out of reach, and it takes that and puts all that nutrition into plants that are now accessible, that animals can eat from them, whereas before they were less available. It drastically shifts and changes what we call the nutritional landscape.
I want as much people to study what I'm doing as possible. So if we're doing something wrong, we change it immediately and we do it right.
The results are pretty promising. We've got really fat deer, especially for their latitude, coming out of those treatments.
Animals know how to find water. And when you have that reforestation process and it's now aspen and 30% more water, the animals know how to find it and they will come.
I didn't tell them to come there. They vote with their feet.
The American West, vast, wild, and free. From the towering peaks to the quaking aspen, it's a legacy that represents the rugged American spirit. But today our iconic forests face an imminent threat, a cancerous overgrowth that triggers devastating fires. It poisons our water and starves our wildlife. At 106 Reforestation, we are taking up arms. And we're enlisting the help of America's bravest. It's taking care of the forest, and it's putting veterans to work in their own business. Another way for them to serve the American people. Our symbol says it all, Pando, the 106-acre aspen grove in Utah. It's a living symbol of resilience, and we're on a mission to restore balance to our high mountain forests with state-of-the-art weapons. Our no-burn process clears the way for aspens to thrive again. And who better to join our ranks in this fight than our military veterans, men and women trained to protect, to work as a team, and to never back down from a challenge.
If you're going to war with something, obviously you have to have strategies, you have to have the right people, you have to have the right processes. Veterans are a resilient bunch. They've fought for the country. They've given their life to fight for freedom. And to me, that means everything in the world.
106 Reforestation isn't just about saving forests. It's about empowering heroes. We envision a future where veterans can own their own businesses and bring the fight to save our forests to the forest.
People want purpose. They want to make a difference. They want to matter. They want to do something that's going to leave a legacy so that they can be proud of it and show others what they've done. The impact will last for generations.
This is more than a job, it's a mission. A way to serve again, to build something lasting, and to protect the country they swore to defend. With every acre restored, veterans are planting hope, giving wildlife a home, and showing all of us what it means to heal the land together.